Mark, the scoreline reads 2-0 on the day. Just give us your assessment of the performance.
Not good enough. I mean, I think really disappointing level from us in every aspect, really. They deserved it 100%. They deserved the result. They deserved the game. So we're frustrated more than that, really, because it's like good week, bad week. That's the inconsistencies of the team at the moment. And we had a really good number of supporters here to watch the game who will go home angry, and they should do. So I'm sorry we can't give them better than that, because we were too lacking in too many areas from the start of the game, where they got right on top, fast starting team as they are, and we didn't match their intensity too often throughout the game. And then when we had opportunities to get control of the game, which we had periods where we did have control of the ball, and then we had opportunities to get control of the ball, but the number of misplaced passes and unforced errors was just way too high. And then they made more of their attempts and chances on goal than we did. We didn't make enough of them, and we had opportunities to do all of that. So it ends up being a game that, in the end, we try everything in terms of changes and shape change and everything, but none of it worked, because we never quite got to the level that we needed to for long enough to be a bigger threat in the game. And in the end, it looks really scruffy when they create the chances they do, and it looks horrific when we look that open and we've got players at the top of the pitch looking at others at the back of the pitch defend. So yeah, we've got loads to do, because that's a disappointing level. And they're in really good form. They're hard to score and create chances against. That's 7 league clean sheets, I think, in a row for them, which is magnificent. So we knew it would be tough in terms of creating chances, but we didn't do enough with the moments that we had, and we couldn't match or keep up with their hard running. In the end, they were able to run harder than we were.
Is inconsistency your main frustration at this moment in time?
Yeah, maybe that's just our level, though. Maybe we're not capable of putting that together again and again and again. And obviously we rolled out the same team again today that we have been, which hopefully you allow some consistency, but we didn't get to the level anywhere near enough. And obviously I made 2 changes at half time. Shape v shape in the first half, they were miles better than us, so we twisted and changed the shape to try and do something, and really to do that there had to be a couple that come off. It was Jack and Max today. It could have been a few, to be honest, but it was them today. And then we couldn't, in the early part of the half, we got countered on really early, and they created 2 good chances, and then we started to get some control of the game, but we just weren't able to do enough with it and find real quality moments to open the team up that are really hard to create chances against, and looked heavy-legged on a heavy and difficult surface, but they weren't. So there's the frustration, I think, is whether it's a mindset that we've done okay, we've had a couple of good results, or we're just not able to really push and get that out of ourselves regularly. It's something we have to address.
Appreciate your time, Mark. Thank you. Ben?
Yeah, Mark, you referred to obviously the travelling supporters who've come here on Boxing Day, and it was obviously a bit of a flat performance, wasn't it? And I mean, is the concern, that you weren't expecting that from your team off the back of having made those improvements over the last few games?
Yeah, I think they just started miles better than us. They are a fast starting team. They've scored a lot of goals early in games. You know what's coming. You have to be ready for that. We didn't get control of the opening periods, and then we're all out of shape for the first goal. We slip at the wrong time, they score, and then we get really flustered and don't get any real intensity into our game, and then look really dispirited by the way in which we started the game. So it had moments, and it certainly had potential turning points where we could have got control of the game, but it took us about 40 minutes to get a regain in their half and break on them, and we didn't make enough of those moments, that firstly, but we didn't do enough of that either. We were too open really from back to front. We were too passive when the ball went into wide areas. You look at their sort of 5-second frenzy when it's in a tight space, and we're kidding ourselves if we think we're doing it. Get your hand on someone, get his head down, win the ball back, be aggressive, make a foul, take a yellow card. We haven't done enough of it, and we'll make the lads see it again, but we'll keep showing them, because in the end they have to get better at it, because otherwise we just become a soft and passive team, and then if we're that and we get the ball back and turn it over too quickly, we can't be anything. And so that's it's one of those days where too many elements of the game look horrible, but it could probably be all be solved partly with a greater intensity and a better aggression to go and get around them a little bit more in certain situations, because we didn't do it. We didn't lock them down at all well enough.
Yeah, like you say, I think in that first half it took you till 25 minutes to commit a foul, and I think you were losing Gills kind of 3-1 at that point as well. You mentioned kind of the errors as well when you were getting the possession. I guess it was too many guys as individuals and collectively that were just kind of off it today.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anyone who would hold the hand up and say they had a good game, and probably that's happened. Well, it's happened too often. So that drive to want to do it and to find that level all the time against a team that really were there in the game. But no question, it's why we had to do something at half time to try and create some sort of response. Cause them a problem with a shape change. Obviously there's a downside to us, we get a bit overloaded in a wide area, but if we can pin them back and try and get some control, and we had a little bit more of it in the second half, but not enough quality in those moments. And yeah, first half outfought for Gills like continually, and lots of the things that we have tried to prepare the players for the game, we didn't cope with and didn't do well enough in the game, despite there being loads of opportunities to do it. So yeah, it's a bad day for us. Yeah,
I mean, you managed to stay in the game for quite a long period, all things considered, and obviously having Armani Little back on the pitch did make a big difference, and he's obviously such a key player for you. Yeah,
I think him and Timmy today, they just end up doing maybe longer than they're ready for at the moment on quite a heavy surface, so they're just that we'll benefit from that maybe down the line. But in the end, it's today that we needed to be good, it's today that we needed to hit the level, it's today that we needed to keep stacking results together, and we talk about that all the time. I think in the last 7 games, league games, win 3, lose 3, draw 1, 50% win rate, in enough to have the season that we want to have. And you look across the league today and you see all the results, and I've said this time and time again, it's an opportunity to stack some results together with lots of games in a quick period of time to make an imprint in the season. But we're not showing enough quality and consistency at the moment to be the team that does that, and we have to give more and do better, all of us, in order to make sure we do it.
As you said, you're trying to produce that level of consistency by picking similar lineups, and yet because it's not quite happening, you're having to change things all the time to try and find something that does work with effectively now your best squad and best players available.
Yeah, in fairness, we've done it the last few weeks without question. It's just today we didn't. So it's easy to think, we're in a bad side, but the last few weeks we weren't a bad side, and at the start of the season we weren't a bad side, and these players were good players and are good players and are capable. But the difference between our best and worst is too big. I think that's the difference, and that's from week to week and sometimes in games. So it's just about trying to get that consistency and that drive from everybody to find that level. We've certainly got more players available now. Some are getting fitter and closer to their best, which gives us problems and solutions and things to save. But in the end, if you look at the league table, the 2 statistics at the moment that just aren't high enough for us is, like, number 1, too many defeats in the number of games that we've played, number 2, not enough goals scored. So we have to improve in those 2 areas, and obviously one helps the other hugely, to be, 1, more ruthless and creative when we have the moments that we have, and 2, better to get control and create more of them. And that starting base usually is a real intensity and an incredible urgency without the ball, to run past it, to run beyond, to get your hand on people and stop them playing like they did.
AFC Women are next. Obviously the fact is you can kind of say goodbye to this one and go on to that next one quite quickly, and obviously another difficult side on the road.
Yeah, I mean, we've got tough away games, we've got tough games, but I hate the fact that you have to just go, move on, and because in itself that's a mental, we'll lose a game, crack on, go and play the next one. Now, of course, there's an element of the next game comes really fast, you have to be ready for it and you have to do better. But the lads make it difficult for me to pick a team when they play like that, because it's like, well, who's really laid down a marker for their place in the team? And they have to make sure that they realise their own shortcomings in the game a little bit, as well as I'll have to do my own. So yeah, really tough game in the next game that we've got away from home against another good side. But if we show and give the level that we are capable of, then we can go and get a result there. But at the same time, we know for every MK Dons, Notts County, Carlisle, Tranmere, Barrow, there's Bromley and Colchester as well, and that's where the difference between our good and our bad is way too big, and that's a sure sign of a season that will just drift along and be a fairly average one in line with the last few, and we need to be better than that.
Obviously going to have another big away following, I think, for that Wimbledon game, so again kind of onus on the players to put in a performance for them.
Always, yeah, and we have brilliant support today. We know with the close games that we've got, we'll have great support. We always do, and they come out in really good numbers home and away, get behind the team. They've done it again today. We haven't returned them a good enough performance. And it's one of those days, isn't it? You know, like if you lose a game but your performance levels are really, like we drew the game last week 2-2, and we were chasing and we had good quality and we were a good side, and you get applauded off the pitch because the performance is a good one and you see signs in that team. And then today you lose the game, but we lose it in a way that we're not threatening enough, and we're just not at it enough in comparison to them, and that's an issue that needs addressing. Partly that is players, partly that is us driving them and pushing them, and the consequences of poor performances and not being a consistent player at the level we need them has to be the players come out of the team, and that's what we'll have to look at.
Just finally from me, you didn't have obviously you had guys that were fit that you obviously had to leave out the matchday squad today, but obviously Lapsley scored off the bench last time around and wasn't involved. Anything behind that?
Just sick, yeah. There's been loads of illness going around, so he's not well. Everybody else was sort of available. Players like Joe Boda just haven't really done anything off the back of the concussion, so hopefully they all come into our thinking for the next game.
Cool, thank you.
Just one from me, Mark. You mentioned there's been average seasons in the past, recently in the past. How do you turn this one around? And there is time, isn't there? I suppose that's the key thing, isn't
time, and despite like the league position will look horrible tonight, but the points difference between us and second place is probably no different than it was before the start of today. The league's really close. That's why if you can stack consistent results together, you can climb the table really quickly. So there's loads of time, there's loads of games and loads of football to play, but we can't spend the season always looking at the next game as the opportunity. We have to grasp it and grab it and actually deliver on that. So part of it will just be driving the players that we've got. Part of it will be trying to add to the group and the squad and create competition and a strength in the team. And part of it is convincing some of them that think they're doing all right, that all right isn't good enough, and that's a big part of the job.